The night was cold and quiet, and the city streets were almost empty when the undercover boss, Mr. Harris, walked toward his restaurant at 3 a.m. He wore simple clothes and kept his hood up so no one would recognize him. For weeks, he had been worried about the performance of his restaurant chain, and he wanted to see what really happened behind closed doors when managers were not watching. Tonight, he decided to make a surprise visit, pretending to be a new trainee starting an early shift. He expected to find the building dark, the kitchen empty, and the place silent. But when he pushed the back door open, he froze. The lights were on. A soft chopping sound echoed through the kitchen. It was slow at first, then fast, then steady, almost like a rhythm. Mr. Harris stepped inside and moved quietly across the floor, trying not to make any noise. The smell of fresh vegetables filled the air, mixed with the faint scent of herbs. It did not make sense. No one was supposed to be working at this hour. He walked further and then saw him, a young black chef standing at the counter, chopping vegetables with deep focus. His name tag said Marcus. But Marcus wasn't scheduled until 10 a.m. Yet here he was, sleeves rolled up, hands moving fast, eyes sharp even though he looked exhausted. Sweat dripped from his forehead, and his breath came out heavy, but he did not stop. Mr. Harris hid behind a shelf for a moment and watched quietly. Marcus seemed unaware that anyone else was in the room. His movements were practiced, smooth, almost like he had been doing this his whole life. But there was something else, something Mr. Harris could not ignore. The boy's shoulders carried weight, not just physical tiredness but a heaviness in his heart. The boss could see it even from a distance. Marcus chopped onions, peppers, and carrots, then carefully placed them into containers. After that, he washed dishes, scrubbed the counters, and set up the ingredients for the morning shift. He did every job with the same seriousness, as if he believed the entire restaurant depended on him alone. Mr. Harris stepped closer. He wanted to greet him, but something stopped him. He wanted to observe more first. Why would a young man be working at 3 a.m. without being asked? Was he trying to impress someone? Was he hiding a mistake? Or was there something much deeper behind his long hours? Marcus finally paused to stretch his back. For a second, his eyes closed, and he leaned against the counter, breathing hard. He looked tired, truly tired in a way that came from sleepless nights, not just hard work. Mr. Harris could see dark circles under his eyes and a quiet sadness he tried to hide. But then, as if remembering something, Marcus straightened up again and forced himself to continue preparing the vegetables. The boss slowly walked toward him. Marcus flinched when he heard footsteps, quickly wiping his face and standing straight, trying to act normal. "Oh, sorry," Marcus said softly, surprised. "I didn't know anyone else was coming in this early." "I was told to start my training today," the undercover boss replied, pretending to be confused. "They said to come before morning prep." Marcus smiled politely, though it was clear he was still tired. "Welcome," he said. "I didn't know they hired someone new, but I can show you what to do." He spoke with kindness, without a trace of arrogance. There was no frustration in his voice, no irritation that someone had disturbed his quiet work. Instead, he seemed grateful to have company, even if he tried not to show it. Mr. Harris watched him closely. Marcus cleaned the workstation, washed his hands again, and began explaining the tasks one by one. He spoke humbly, almost apologetically, as if he didn't want to bother anyone. The boss could tell he wasn't used to people paying attention to him. As they worked together, Mr. Harris noticed something else strange. Marcus kept glancing at the clock. Not because he wanted to leave, but as if he was counting down time for something important. Every few minutes, his face tightened with worry, then relaxed again when he realized only a few seconds had passed. The boss felt a growing curiosity. Something was wrong. Something was hidden. But Marcus never complained. He chopped vegetables, checked supplies, put trays in order, cleaned the sink once more, and even prepared breakfast for the morning staff. He looked like someone who carried the whole kitchen on his back. "Do you always come in this early?" Mr. Harris asked casually. Marcus froze for half a second, then smiled lightly. "Sometimes," he said. "I like to get things done before everyone else arrives." But the boss knew this was not the full truth. No one wakes up at this hour every day unless they have a strong reason, or a heavy burden. As dawn slowly painted the sky outside, Marcus continued working non-stop. Even tired, even quiet, even alone, he showed unbelievable dedication. And in that moment, Mr. Harris understood one thing clearly: this young chef had a story, a deep one, a painful one, and it was hidden in the silence of this 3 a.m. kitchen. Tonight was only the beginning. The truth was waiting, somewhere behind those tired eyes, and the boss was determined to discover it. The next morning, when the restaurant opened for business, Mr. Harris blended in with the staff as if he had always been there. No one knew he was the owner, and everyone treated him like a new trainee who needed guidance. But his eyes never stopped observing Marcus. He wanted to understand him completely. What confused him most was how normal Marcus looked during the day. He laughed with coworkers, moved quickly between stations, and cooked dishes so perfectly that customers often sent compliments to the kitchen. His energy almost looked endless, even though Mr. Harris had seen him awake and working since 3 a.m. But beneath the bright smile, something was different. The smile never reached his eyes. Marcus always stood a little apart from everyone else. He listened more than he talked. He never joined in when coworkers joked about their weekend plans or shared stories of their dreams. When someone asked him a personal question, he gave short answers, polite but distant. It was clear he was hiding something, something he wasn't ready to share. Mr. Harris kept replaying the early morning scene in his mind. No one works that hard unless there is a reason. Was Marcus trying to prove himself? Was he saving money for something important? Or was he running from a past he couldn't escape? During a short break, the boss pretended to check the storage area. But really, he was watching Marcus eat alone. The young chef didn't bring expensive food, just a simple sandwich he had made quickly. He ate fast, as if time was chasing him. But when he finished, he sat still for a moment, staring at his hands. There was a sadness in his expression, a heaviness that didn't match his friendly behavior. The boss approached him casually. "You did a lot of work this morning," he said. "I came in early too and saw you already here." Marcus stiffened. His eyes widened for a second before he forced a calm smile. "Oh, yeah," he said softly. "I like to start early. Helps me focus." "But 3 a.m.? the boss asked gently. Marcus gave a quick laugh, the kind people use when they are trying to hide something. "I don't sleep much," he replied. "I'd rather be productive." The boss nodded but didn't push the question further. Pressing too early might make Marcus shut down completely. He needed to wait for the right moment, the moment when Marcus trusted him enough to speak honestly. Later in the afternoon, a coworker named Sam pulled the new trainee aside. "You're starting with the best guy here," Sam said proudly. "Marcus is the hardest worker. Doesn't matter what task you give him, he'll do it without complaining." Mr. Harris nodded, pretending to be impressed. "He does seem dedicated," he said. "Dedicated?" Sam scoffed playfully. "The guy barely sleeps. I've seen him here after midnight and again before sunrise. It's like he lives here." "Do you know why?" the boss asked carefully. "No idea," Sam replied. "He never says. He's quiet, but he's solid. Everyone respects him. But no one really knows him." That confirmed it. Marcus had built walls around himself, walls no one had been able to cross. That night, Mr. Harris stayed late again, pretending to clean equipment. When the last employee left, Marcus remained behind, checking the fridge and preparing ingredients for the next day. He moved slowly, tired from the long hours, but he kept going as if he had no other choice. At one point, he leaned against the counter and pressed his fingers to his temples. He looked like someone holding back a storm inside. The boss watched quietly from the doorway, feeling a strange ache in his own chest. This boy wasn't just hard-working, he was carrying something heavy enough to break someone twice his age. When Marcus finally noticed him, he startled slightly. "Oh, you're still here?" he asked. "Just finishing up," the boss said. "You work harder than anyone I've ever seen." Marcus shrugged with a forced smile. "Gotta do what you gotta do." The boss wanted to ask more, but he held back. Trust wasn't built in a day. As Marcus locked the kitchen and walked out into the dim parking lot, Mr. Harris followed at a distance. He didn't want to spy on him, but he felt something tugging at his heart, something telling him that Marcus's story was far bigger than an early shift. Marcus didn't head home. Instead, he walked toward the bus stop, shoulders hunched, eyes tired. He looked like someone who carried a secret that hurt more each day. And at that moment, the boss realized. This young man wasn't just hardworking. He was surviving something. Something no one else could see. Marcus walked quickly through the quiet streets after leaving the restaurant. It was late, the sky was dark, and the roads were almost empty. The cold wind brushed against his face, but he didn't react. He looked like someone who had learned to ignore discomfort. Mr. Harris followed at a distance, careful not to be noticed. He didn't want to spy on Marcus, but something in the chef's lonely walk made him feel that the truth was close, very close. Marcus waited at a bus stop, standing alone under a flickering streetlight. His shoulders slumped slightly, as if the entire weight he carried through the day finally settled on him now that no one was watching. When the bus arrived, it was almost empty. He sat in the back, resting his head against the window. His eyes closed for a moment, and the boss could see that he wasn't sleeping, just trying to hold himself together. When the bus reached the last stop, Marcus got off and walked down a narrow street toward an old apartment building. The building looked tired, like it had seen too many winters and too many struggles. Paint peeled from the walls. The lights at the entrance were dim. But Marcus walked in with familiarity, as if he had been returning here for years. Mr. Harris waited outside. He didn't want to cross the line by following inside. He just watched the window where a faint glow appeared moments later. Through the curtain, he saw movement, Marcus setting down bags, checking things, and turning on a small lamp. But then something unexpected happened. A small shadow ran into the room. Then another. 2 children. They jumped into Marcus's arms, hugging him tightly. Even from the street, Mr. Harris could see the change in Marcus's face. The exhaustion melted away. The sadness disappeared. His smile, real, full, warm, finally appeared. This was the first truth revealed. Marcus was not working for himself. He was working for them. The children looked around 7 and 9 years old. Their clothes were worn, their hair a little messy, but their faces lit up with joy when Marcus arrived. He pulled out a small box of leftover food from the restaurant and placed it on the table. The kids clapped their hands as if it were a feast. He knelt beside them, listening as they talked excitedly about their day. He laughed softly, brushed their hair, and hugged them again and again. He wasn't just a chef. He was their guardian. Their only guardian. Mr. Harris felt a lump in his throat. Everything began to make sense. The long hours, the exhaustion, the early mornings, the constant worrying, the quiet sadness in Marcus's eyes. This young man was carrying a responsibility far bigger than his years. The boss walked away quietly, giving Marcus privacy, but his mind was racing. Why were these kids with him? Where were their parents? And why did Marcus hide this from everyone at the restaurant? The next day, Mr. Harris observed Marcus with a new understanding. Every action now had context. Marcus didn't socialize because he had no time for friendships. He didn't take breaks because he needed every extra dollar. He didn't sleep because he spent his nights caring for 2 children who depended on him. During lunch, the boss sat beside him again. You live far from here, right? He asked gently. Marcus hesitated. Yeah, it's a long ride. Must be tiring, the boss said softly. Marcus smiled faintly. You get used to it. But his hands trembled slightly, betraying the truth he was trying so hard to hide. Mr. Harris waited a moment, then asked, Do you live alone? Marcus froze. It was a small moment, but the boss noticed everything, the tight breath, the stiff shoulders, the eyes that avoided his. Marcus finally nodded but not convincingly. Mostly, he said. The boss could hear the lie in the single word. But he didn't push further. He couldn't force trust. He could only earn it. Later that afternoon, Marcus was chopping vegetables again when a sudden wave of dizziness hit him. He grabbed the counter to steady himself. The boss reached him instantly. You okay? He asked. Marcus nodded quickly. Just tired. I'm fine. But he wasn't fine. His body was giving out. His eyes showed a pain deeper than physical exhaustion. And for the first time, Mr. Harris realized something frightening. If Marcus collapsed, if he lost this job, if he couldn't work, those two children would have no one. The truth was unfolding slowly, painfully, clearly. This young man wasn't skipping college because he was lazy. He wasn't working early because he loved it. He wasn't hiding his life because he wanted to. He was doing everything he could to survive. The week moved forward, and each day pressed harder on Marcus's tired body. He worked from sunrise to night, and sometimes even beyond. Mr. Harris watched everything quietly, pretending to be just a trainee, but inside him, worry grew stronger each day. Marcus had become thinner, his eyes darker, his steps slower. Yet he refused to stop. It was as if he believed that resting, even for a moment, would cause everything he was holding together to collapse. On Thursday night, the restaurant stayed open late because of a large event. The kitchen was full of noise, heat, and rushing footsteps. Marcus moved fast between stations, preparing dishes, seasoning food, fixing mistakes, and helping everyone who needed him. Even when he was exhausted, he carried the weight of the kitchen as if it were his personal responsibility. But the signs were there. His hands shook when he held the knife. His shoulders slouched. His breath became uneven. Mr. Harris noticed each small detail, and it made his heart ache. He wanted to step in, to help, to tell him to slow down, but he had to stay undercover a little longer. He needed to understand the full truth before revealing himself. By the time the event ended and the customers left, it was almost midnight. The other staff members clocked out happily, ready to go home. But Marcus stayed behind, slowly cleaning the counters. The room was silent now, the bright lights reflecting off stainless steel surfaces. Mr. Harris stayed too, wiping down equipment, watching Marcus from the corner of his eye. The young chef's movements were slower than usual. His head drooped forward. His eyelids fluttered as if sleep was pulling him down like a heavy weight. And then it happened. While slicing vegetables for the next day, Marcus's hand slipped. The knife sliced across his palm, and he gasped softly. He didn't scream. He didn't drop the knife. He simply stared at the blood running down his hand, his breath shaking. Mr. Harris rushed forward. Marcus. Let me see. Marcus stepped back quickly, hiding his hand behind him. It's fine, he whispered, his voice weak. Just a small cut. That is not a small cut, the boss said firmly, though still pretending to be a trainee. Marcus shook his head. I can't stop. I need to finish the prep. You're bleeding, the boss insisted. I'm used to it, Marcus replied softly, and those 3 words struck the boss like a punch. Used to it. Used to pain. Used to exhaustion. Used to doing everything alone. He wasn't proud of it. He wasn't ignoring it. He simply had no choice. Mr. Harris gently but firmly took his injured hand. Marcus didn't resist this time. Perhaps he was too tired. Perhaps he was too hurt to argue. The boss cleaned the wound with warm water, disinfected it, and wrapped it in a bandage. As he worked, he noticed Marcus's eyes shimmering, not from the pain of the cut, but from something deeper. When the bandage was done, Marcus looked away quickly and wiped his eyes with the back of his uninjured hand. "Sorry," he whispered. "I don't know why I'm like this today." Mr. Harris lowered his voice. "You don't have to apologize for being human." Marcus swallowed hard. I have a lot to take care of." The boss waited, hoping he would continue. But the young chef bit his lip and turned his face away, as if stopping himself from saying too much. Silence filled the kitchen. Heavy. Emotional. Raw. Then Marcus's knees weakened. He grabbed the counter to keep himself standing. Mr. Harris caught him before he fell. "You haven't eaten since morning," the boss said quietly. "I don't have time," Marcus murmured. "You can't keep doing this," the boss told him. Marcus closed his eyes. "I don't have a choice." There it was, his truth, slipping out in pieces. No choice. No freedom. No rest. No support. Just survival. Mr. Harris helped him sit down on a milk crate. He poured him a glass of water and placed a plate of leftover food in front of him. Marcus stared at it for a long moment before finally taking a bite. The tension in his body loosened slightly, and his shoulders dropped. The boss sat across from him, studying the young man's weary face. "Who are you carrying this burden for, Marcus?" he asked softly. Marcus looked up, and for the first time, the truth flickered in his eyes, pain, fear, and love all mixed together. But he still didn't speak. Not yet. He wasn't ready. But the breaking point had come, and Mr. Harris knew that soon, very soon, the whole truth would finally come out. The next day, Marcus arrived at work even earlier than usual. His bandaged hand showed he was still hurting, but he didn't complain. He moved slower, yet he refused to rest. His eyes were red from lack of sleep, his steps unsteady, but still he prepared the kitchen as if the entire world depended on him. Mr. Harris watched from across the room, pretending to arrange inventory, but really he was studying every detail. The cut on Marcus's hand wasn't just from exhaustion, it was a warning. A sign that the young chef was falling apart. A sign that something heavy was drowning him from the inside. By midday, the restaurant grew busy. Orders rushed in one after another. The kitchen ran like a storm. Marcus moved between stations, using only one hand at full strength. Every time he picked up something heavy, he flinched, but he kept going. Around lunchtime, the boss approached him gently. "Hey, don't strain your hand," he said. "Let me help." Marcus shook his head. "I'm good." "You're not," the boss insisted. But Marcus had already moved to the next task, ignoring the growing pain. It wasn't pride stopping him. It was fear that slowing down would cost him everything. Later that afternoon, a manager came in, frustrated over an incorrect order. He raised his voice at Marcus, blaming him for something he hadn't even done. Marcus didn't defend himself. He bowed his head and said softly, "I'll fix it." Mr. Harris felt a spark of anger. This wasn't discipline. It was unfairness. Marcus wasn't just overworked, he was overlooked. No one saw his sacrifices. No one cared about his struggles. No one appreciated that he was the backbone of the kitchen. When the evening shift ended, Marcus stayed behind again to clean. The boss stayed with him, quietly picking up trash and wiping surfaces. He didn't want Marcus to be alone. Not tonight. After they finished, Marcus sat for a moment, breathing heavily. He pressed his fingers against his temples as if fighting a headache. "You should go home," the boss said softly. Marcus didn't move. "I can't." "Why not?" the boss asked gently. Silence. Marcus stared at the floor, his chest rising and falling unevenly. "Do you live with someone?" the boss continued. Marcus swallowed hard, then nodded slowly. "My little brother and sister," he whispered. The boss felt something shift. The truth was finally coming. "I thought I saw you with kids the other night," the boss said carefully, not wanting to frighten him. Marcus didn't look surprised. Instead, his shoulders relaxed, not from comfort but from resignation. "There's no one else," Marcus said quietly. "It's just me and them." He took a deep breath, then continued. "My mom passed away 2 years ago," he said softly. "She got sick, and it happened fast. I was still in high school when it happened." The boss listened without a word. "My dad left long before that," Marcus went on. "So when Mom died, there was no one to take care of the kids but me." He rubbed his bandaged hand nervously. "They wanted to send them into foster care," he said, voice trembling. "Different homes. Different towns. They would have been split up." His voice cracked. "I couldn't let that happen." The boss felt his chest tighten. Everything began to make sense now, the long nights, the early mornings, the endless work. "I had a scholarship," Marcus whispered. "Full scholarship for culinary school. My dream. My one chance." He paused, breathing unsteadily. "But if I went to college, they would have taken my siblings away. I had to choose." He looked up with tired eyes. "So I chose them." The room fell silent. Heavy. Emotional. Honest. "I work late because I can't afford childcare," Marcus explained. "And I work early because I need the extra hours. I don't tell anyone because I don't want them to pity me or treat me differently." His voice went soft. "I want to earn everything I give them." Mr. Harris felt something powerful inside him, respect, admiration, heartbreak. "Marcus," he said gently, "you're doing more than anyone your age should ever have to do." Marcus shook his head. "I'm just trying to keep us together." His hands trembled again, not from exhaustion this time, but from the weight of the truth finally spoken. Mr. Harris placed a hand on his shoulder. "You're not alone," he said quietly. "Not anymore." Marcus looked up, surprised. The boss knew the moment had come, the moment where everything was about to change. The next morning felt different. Mr. Harris walked into the restaurant with a heaviness in his chest, carrying Marcus's truth with him. He could not forget the pain in the young chef's voice, the shaking hands, the quiet strength hiding behind exhausted eyes. Everything Marcus had confessed haunted him, his lost scholarship, his mother's death, the 2 children waiting at home, and the fear of losing everything if he slowed down even for a day. Today, the undercover boss was not just observing anymore. He was preparing for something bigger. Marcus started his shift slowly, his injured hand wrapped neatly in fresh bandage. He didn't complain. He didn't mention last night's conversation. He simply worked, as he always did, with silent focus and heavy responsibility on his shoulders. But Mr. Harris saw everything differently now. Every cut of the knife, every pot lifted, every dish prepared, it all carried the weight of 2 small children he was fighting to keep safe. He wasn't just preparing food. He was building a life for people who depended entirely on him. During lunch, the manager shouted at Marcus again, this time for a missing garnish. Marcus apologized instantly, even though it wasn't his mistake. Mr. Harris clenched his jaw. He had watched enough. He stepped closer, pretending to help Marcus. "You don't deserve that," he whispered. Marcus shook his head. "It's fine. I'm used to it." Those words cut deeper than the knife injury. After the rush died down, Mr. Harris asked Marcus to sit with him for a moment. They sat on 2 crates in the storage room, surrounded by shelves of ingredients. "You didn't sleep last night, did you?" the boss asked gently. Marcus looked away. "A little." My sister had a fever. I stayed up with her. The boss felt a twist of emotion. The young man was barely surviving each day, yet still pushing himself beyond his limits. Why didn't you tell the manager? The boss asked. I can't look weak, Marcus said quietly. If they think I can't handle the job, I could lose it. And if I lose it, my brother and sister lose everything. The words trembled in the air. Mr. Harris stared at him for a long moment. His heart tightened, not just with sympathy, but with admiration. This young man carried a strength few adults possessed. You know, the boss said softly, sometimes asking for help doesn't make you weak. Marcus gave a tired smile. In my world, it does. That single sentence revealed more than any story could. Later that evening, Mr. Harris made a decision. He could not wait any longer. Marcus needed help now, real, life-changing help. And he deserved to know who the trainee beside him truly was. When the last employee left, the kitchen fell quiet. Marcus stayed behind, cleaning as always, moving slowly but refusing to stop. Mr. Harris walked to him with calm but serious steps. Marcus, he said softly, I need to talk to you. Marcus turned, wiping his hands on a towel. Sure. What's up? Mr. Harris took a deep breath. I haven't been honest with you. Marcus blinked, caught off guard. What do you mean? The boss reached into his pocket and pulled out his real company badge. His name. His title. Everything. Marcus stared at it, confused at first, then shocked as understanding slowly spread across his face. You're not a trainee, he whispered. No, Mr. Harris said gently. I'm the owner. Silence froze the entire kitchen. Marcus felt his stomach drop. His eyes widened. His breath caught in his throat. He looked terrified. I'm sorry, he stammered. If I said anything wrong, if I complained, I didn't mean, please don't fire me. Please. I can't. The boss stepped forward quickly and placed a reassuring hand on his shoulder. Marcus, stop, he said firmly. I'm not here to punish you. Marcus swallowed hard, his chest rising and falling rapidly. I'm here, the boss continued softly, because I finally understand how strong you are. Marcus stared at him, trembling. I know about your brother and sister, the boss said. I know what you've sacrificed. I know the burden you carry alone. And I know you've been doing everything you can to keep your family together. Marcus's eyes filled instantly. He lowered his head, unable to hold the emotions any longer. You're one of the strongest people I've ever met, the boss said. Tears slipped down Marcus's cheeks. For the first time, he didn't hide them. The truth was out. The disguise was gone. And now, everything was about to change. Marcus sat on the small crate, wiping his tears with the back of his hand, too overwhelmed to speak. His whole body trembled, not from fear of losing his job anymore, but because someone had finally seen him. Someone had finally understood the weight he carried. For the first time in years, he wasn't invisible. Mr. Harris waited patiently, giving him time to breathe. The kitchen was silent except for the soft hum of the refrigerator. The moment felt heavy but safe, like the calm before a life-changing storm. I didn't want anyone to know, Marcus finally whispered. I don't like telling people about my life. It makes me feel small. You are anything but small, the boss replied gently. You've held an entire family together. That takes strength most people never learn. Marcus looked down at his hands, the same hands that chopped vegetables before sunrise, held sick children through the night, worked double shifts, and hid all his fear. They didn't look strong. But hearing someone say they were made his chest ache in a new way. What's going to happen now? Marcus asked, his voice barely audible. Mr. Harris smiled softly. Now we make things right. Marcus blinked, confused. What do you mean? The boss pulled up a chair and sat in front of him like a mentor, not a superior. I came here undercover to understand the problems in my company, he said. But what I found was you. A young man carrying a story I'll never forget. Marcus swallowed hard, his throat tight. You didn't skip college because you didn't care, the boss continued. You skipped it because you cared too much. You chose your family over your dreams. That tells me exactly who you are. For a moment, Marcus couldn't speak. No one had ever said anything like that to him. People judged him, whispered assumptions, or ignored him. But no one saw him like this. I can't lose this job, Marcus whispered. I don't know how to do anything else. You're not losing anything, the boss said. You're gaining. The words hung in the air, warm and heavy with promise. Tomorrow, the boss continued, I'm calling HR. We're putting you in our leadership training program. Full pay. Full benefits. You'll work fewer hours but earn more. Marcus stared at him in disbelief. You'll also receive childcare assistance, the boss added. Your brother and sister will be cared for while you work, so you won't have to torture yourself with sleepless nights. Marcus's mouth fell open slightly. Tears slid down his cheeks again, silent, trembling tears of relief. And that scholarship you lost, the boss said with a small smile. I can't change the past. But I can give you a future. The company will sponsor your culinary school education. You can attend classes part-time and still support your family. Marcus covered his face with both hands, shaking with emotion. His whole life, every fear, every sacrifice, every sleepless night, suddenly felt like it had meaning. Like he wasn't fighting a losing battle anymore. I don't deserve this, Marcus whispered through his tears. Mr. Harris leaned forward. You absolutely do. You're exactly the kind of person this company needs. Not because of your skills, but because of your heart. Marcus lifted his face, eyes red and wet, but shining. What about my siblings? He asked softly. They're the only thing I care about. The boss smiled warmly. They're part of the plan too. If you want, we can help you get a bigger apartment, safer and closer to the restaurant. And we'll set up financial support for them as well. Marcus stared at him as if he were dreaming, because no one had ever offered him anything like this. Not even close. Then something happened that surprised even him. He broke down completely. He cried openly, not from sadness, but from a deep, overwhelming release of fear he had been carrying for years. The boss put a gentle hand on his back, letting him feel safe enough to let everything out. After several minutes, Marcus finally whispered, "Thank you. I don't know what to say." "You don't have to say anything," the boss replied softly. "Just keep being who you are. That's enough." In that quiet kitchen, surrounded by the echoes of hard work and pain and hope, a new chapter in Marcus's life began. One he never believed he would ever get to live. The next week brought changes Marcus never expected in his life. It felt strange at first, almost unreal. For years, he had lived in survival mode, always rushing, always worrying, always pushing himself past exhaustion. But now, each morning felt lighter. Each breath felt easier. And for the first time, he didn't wake up with fear. When he arrived at the restaurant on Monday, he noticed something different. People were smiling at him more. The manager who once yelled at him approached with an apologetic look. HR staff greeted him with respect. A new schedule was taped to the wall, one that gave him fair hours, weekends off, and a salary higher than anything he ever dreamed of. But the biggest change came when Mr. Harris walked in. No disguise. No trainee act. Just the owner, smiling warmly at the young chef who had captured his heart. "Ready for your first day as a management trainee?" he asked. Marcus couldn't hold back his smile. "I still can't believe this is real." "It is," the boss said. "And it's just the beginning." They went through paperwork, benefits, school enrollment forms, and plans for his future. Everything felt like building a new life, piece by piece, brick by brick. No longer a life of fear, but a life of support and possibility. That evening, Mr. Harris followed Marcus home, not secretly this time. He had asked Marcus if he could meet the children, and with a shy smile, Marcus agreed. The apartment looked small and worn, but it was clean, warm, and full of love. When Marcus opened the door, his younger brother, Ty, ran forward and hugged him tightly. His sister, Lila, peeked out shyly from behind the doorway. "Hey, guys," Marcus said softly. "I brought someone to meet you." They stared at the stranger standing behind their brother. Mr. Harris knelt down to their height. "Hi," he said gently. "I'm Marcus's friend. He tells me you two are amazing." Ty smiled proudly. Lila hid behind Marcus's leg. The boss handed them small gifts, nothing expensive, just coloring books and stuffed animals. But to the children, it felt like treasure. As they played in the living room, Marcus and the boss sat at the small kitchen table. The apartment felt different tonight. Instead of the heavy silence of worry, there was warmth, safety, hope. "You've done a good job, Marcus," the boss said quietly, watching the kids. "They're happy because of you." Marcus lowered his eyes. "I tried." "You succeeded," the boss replied. He then placed a folder on the table. Marcus opened it slowly. Inside were documents, housing support, school enrollment for him, childcare support for the kids, and a plan for a new apartment closer to the restaurant. "This is your new start," the boss said gently. Marcus's eyes filled instantly. I don't know how to thank you." "You don't need to thank me," the boss said. "Just accept it. You deserve a life where you can breathe. Where you can dream again." For a moment, silence filled the room, soft, emotional silence. Marcus wiped his tears, unable to stop smiling. Later that week, the restaurant held a small gathering. The employees were told the undercover boss had chosen one worker to honor. They all gathered around, curious and excited. Marcus stood in the back, not expecting anything. Then Mr. Harris stepped forward. "This young man," he said proudly, "came to work before sunrise. He stayed after everyone left. He cooked, cleaned, taught, helped, and carried a weight that none of us ever saw." People turned their heads, already guessing who it was. "He gave up his own dreams to take care of his family," the boss continued. "He sacrificed everything, yet still served with kindness and humility. Today, we honor him." Then he called out the name everyone knew but never truly understood. "Marcus." The room erupted in applause. Marcus's co-workers clapped, cheered, and some even wiped tears. Marcus stood frozen, overwhelmed. He walked toward the front, every step shaking with emotion. When he reached the boss, Mr. Harris placed a hand on his shoulder. "You're not alone anymore," he said softly. "We're a team. And we'll help you rise." The applause grew louder. Marcus lowered his head, tears falling freely, but this time, they were tears of joy. That night, when he returned home, his siblings jumped into his arms, asking about his day, showing drawings from school, laughing and hugging him. For the first time in years, Marcus felt something he had forgotten. Freedom. Hope. A future. He stood in the doorway of their new apartment weeks later, watching his siblings run around happily, and whispered to himself. "We made it." He wasn't just surviving anymore. He was living. He was rising. He was finally home.